9 to noon.
Time for two more.
Personal foul. Clipping.
I know, right?
Good stuff.
Border battle.
He's the Dagger. He's the Dagger, and there we go. Paul begins with the Dagger.
Here's the snap. Winston sets, throws, left side of the end zone. Intercepted! Intercepted by the kid! Oh, Evan Williams delivers in the left corner of the end zone. And the Packers deliver the Dagger. Defensively, a rare interception. Just one in the last 6 weeks. And Evan Williams, that should do it.
Dagger time to start 9 to noon on KFAN. It's Wayne Larrivee, play-by-play voice of the Green Bay Packers. Lambeau, noon, 4-6, travels to play 6-3-1. And the Vikes joins us now. Wayne, how have you been, and are you enjoying the season?
I've been good, Paul, for the most part. Yeah, I've been good. The season's been up and down, and yeah, that's NFL football, and it has been enjoyable.
Now, you've called 26 and a half. You've called 26 and a half years of Packers football, and all with analyst Larry McCarron, who started 4 years before you. Larry, for those who don't know, is in the Packers Hall of Fame, and for his work at center back in the day. Just a question I've wanted to ask you forever, and I probably should ask Larry, but I'll ask you anyway. How did his fingers get permanently bent and mangled?
Yeah, it happened during his playing days. And, he just decided, I guess he could have gotten it corrected way back in the day, but he decided not to. And it's kind of a distinctive trait for him.
Quarter century plus working with Larry, who's the analyst. What do you enjoy about working with Larry?
He's great. He's a man's man. The thing I like, he brings kind of a calmness to the broadcast in that, things look like they're going off the rail, and I might react, and yet he'll sit back and he realizes, because of his experience as a player and longtime analyst, that the game has ebbs and flows. It will go up and down, and, one team will look good for a while and the other team will battle back. It's just the way the NFL is, and he's been great to work with over the years. We're different kind of people. We don't hang out a lot, but we do have something in common. We never go to dinner together, but we usually on the road end up at dinner. If it's a Ruth Chris Steakhouse, we will end up there. Not go together, but I'll end up going, and he'll already be there with a place at the bar and probably have his steak already served.
Has Larry ever gotten so excited he was the one who actually did the Dagger call during a Packers win?
No, he hasn't gone that far.
Wow.
But he does react, and I think that's good as long as it's, natural. And believe me, it's natural that, when he reacts to something good or bad that happens on the field. But he hasn't gone as far as taking the Dagger yet. He suggested I throw the Dagger, but he hasn't really done it himself. No.
Last Larry McCarron question, then we'll talk about the border battle with Wayne Larrivee, play-by-play voice for the Green Bay Packers. When Larry interviews LaFleur after games, is that before the press conference? Because those chats are just super raw and really good.
Yeah, they are. It's when LaFleur's on his way after talking with the team, he then goes over and talks to Larry, and then from there goes to the press conference with the media. But you're right, and at some points, against especially heated battles, that type of thing, and disappointing losses, you're getting the raw from both Larry and Matt LaFleur. And, before he's really had a chance almost to compose his thoughts for the media scrum that follows. But very honest interviews. Larry does a great job with them because they're not easy to do, especially after games where things didn't go the way they had hoped.
Right. All right. So what do you think of the team? Do you think this team's good enough to get to the Super Bowl?
I think the Packers are a lot like 90% of the teams in the league. I think they're still evolving. And, the injury factors usually tell the story, and they've lost two big players. I'm not sure if Josh Jacobs is going to play in this game, but they lost the heart and soul of that offense in Tucker Kraft, and he was becoming a big playmaker, and, that's a loss that's hard to overcome. So, they have to get there in a different way. But right now, PA, I would say they're like a lot of other teams, like the Vikings. They're kind of evolving, and it'll be interesting to see which way they go, up or down, because you know what? You're never going to stay the same in this league. You're either, as Mike McCarthy told me many times, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. And that's what the next month and a half are about.
Hey, Wayne, has anything changed with Edgerrin Cooper while having Michael Parsons around?
Oh, boy. I would say not really, although the thing that they aren't doing with him this year is blitzing him more. And I think that's one of the things he does really well. But the whole thing with Micah Parsons, PA, was they always wanted the four-man pass rush, much like Philadelphia had last year. Now, Philly has to blitz a little bit more this year to get home. But the Packers wanted to model their defense after what Philadelphia does with the four-man rush. Pressure with a four-man rush, cover with seven. In the past, they have blitzed Cooper a little bit more, and he's been very effective. Quay Walker's another good blitz option through the A-gap. They do some of that, but not as much as they've done in the past because of Parsons' presence.
Wayne Larrivee, quarter-century plus play-by-play voice for the Green Bay Packers, starts 9 to noon, Border Battle noon, KFAN this Sunday. Michael Parsons, 8 sacks in 10 games. So how much does he change things for the defense?
I think he allows them to do what they intended to do, and that is rush for and put pressure on the quarterback. Earlier this season, he was making Rashawn Gary a much better player than he has been over the course of his career, because instead of receiving the double team looks that teams give him, the chips and all that, Rashawn got that all in the past and had to try to play through it. With Parsons, not so much. He's not getting double teamed nearly as much as he has earlier in his career. Parsons takes on all of those, and that frees up other people on that defensive front.
So overall, how is Rashawn Gary playing?
Well, you know what? It's interesting. His game, and I've seen this in the past, he'll get hot for a couple of 3-4 games in a row, and then he kind of quiets down a little bit. And he's in one of those quiet periods at the moment. But I believe that's going to change this week. Kingsley Enikbare, his backup, actually got more snaps in New Jersey than did Rashawn in that game. And, I'm not a big snaps guy. I don't follow it the way some people do. But it might have been just flow of the game, might have been what they needed, that type of thing. But I think Rashawn Gary, I look for this week to him to really bounce back. He's been kind of quiet of late. And
it seems from afar, Wayne, that you guys could get Lucas Van Ness back this week too, right?
Yeah, there's a possibility of that. I think he was close last week, and they wanted to give him another week. Lucas was playing real well, and another one of those players that really, obviously is developing quicker with Micah Parsons' presence out there. And I think, Lucas, but the thing about Lucas, we all are looking for sacks from him. That's why they drafted him. But the other thing he does a little better than people realize, he's much better against the run than people give him credit for. And I think their run defense has suffered a little bit without him the last 5 weeks.
And not having players, it's something through which the Vikings have gone this season, more so early in the season than now. Like, at one point, Wayne, the Vikings had used 17 different offensive line combinations, which guides me to Elton Jenkins, because he's absolutely one of the best guards in the league. And when I heard he was going to center, I was curious, but then watching a couple of games, it seemed like, he was doing a really good job. But, Jenkins, I know he's not playing, but he's just fantastic, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a great offensive lineman. He was struggling a little bit with the conversion to center, but you have to understand the scouts when he was drafted said, we think this guy's best position is center. That's his most natural position. But he played guard for the last 5 or 6 years, whatever it is. And, now they move him over to center. I think there was a period of time earlier in the year when he was acclimating to that, as was the line itself. And maybe he wasn't quite as effective at center as he had been at left guard. But what has hurt in that regard is that, okay, he's now out of the lineup at center. Sean Ryan moves in. Aaron Banks has had good moments and bad moments at left guard. And he was the big ticket free agent signing at left guard, and that allowed them to move Jenkins to the center position. But, things are kind of evolving as this goes along. Banks has had his good moments. He's had his bad moments. And hopefully he'll have some good moments down the stretch because they really need him to play well.
Dagger, after that loss to Cleveland and the home one to Carolina, it nationally really got loud. Green Bay can beat anybody anytime, but they can lose to anybody anytime. They play to the level of the foe. Do you buy into that?
Yeah, to an extent I do. And the way this season has gone, they've kind of played at times down to the level of their competition. Dallas wasn't a very good football team when we went down there. And, a blocked PAT, returned for a score, something rare, turned that game around, flipped it around, and the Packers were fortunate to get out of there with a tie. That game should not have been close. I mean, the Packers were dominating at that point of the ball game. But, Cleveland turned on an interception late on what Matt LaFleur described as a bad play call. And I would think as a veteran quarterback that, Jordan Love would have changed that play at the line of scrimmage, but he didn't. He ran the play. Bad play, as LaFleur said he called a bad play. The pass was made. They tried to thread the needle. It was intercepted, returned a big time to set up Cleveland's winning score. Those little things that happen. Now, Carolina came in and give them credit. If you watch the tape, they powered their way past the Packers. They overpowered them with the offensive line matchup against the Green Bay defensive front. Carolina ran the line of scrimmage and literally ran to 163 yards that day. But even in that game, there were moments where the Packers should have taken control, should have found a way to beat an undermanned foe in that situation, and that's the one thing you worry about.
A couple more for Wayne Larrivee, play-by-play voice for the Packers. Jordan Love, the quarterback. Jordan Love, and you probably know this, but for those who don't, as a starter, week 12 on during his career, has 25 touchdowns and just 1 interception. So are you sensing, Love's had a good season, but are you sensing he's about really ready to hit a big-time stride this year?
Yeah, I would hope so. He got dinged up in New Jersey, has a left shoulder problem that I think is more painful than anything else and doesn't inhibit the way he throws the football necessarily. But, and I'm saying that, and I'm not a doctor, but, I think he's got a chance to really take off from here. He's been very good, Paul. He's received a lot of criticism around here, and I don't know why. Is he great every game? No, but no quarterback is. But this guy has been really solid in running the football team, making good decisions with the football, running it himself at times, and I think he's going to have to do a lot of that this week against this Minnesota defense.
All right, last one, the Eagles. You saw them recently. We saw them earlier. What do you think of the Eagles? Do you think they're still the class of the NFC?
Yes, without a question. The only question would be the Rams, and the Rams have, they've gone into Philadelphia. They gave the Eagles the toughest game in their playoff run last year. They gave them, they were right there in the snow to win that game, the Rams. I think the Rams, it's the Eagles, Rams, and Seahawks in the NFC right now, and I think they are clearly head and shoulders above the rest of this conference at the moment.
Can't wait to see you Sunday, somewhere between 9:15 and 9:45 in the cafeteria. Tell Larry that I say hi, and thanks a lot, Wayne, all right?
All right, take care, guys. Take care. Have a good one.
See you, bud. Wayne Larrivee, play-by-play voice for the Green Bay Packers.
And the silence you hear is Lambeau Field.
Courtesy of TimberTech and TimberTech.com. What's on deck 9 to noon includes Vikes Bites around the corner, followed by Russo Radio from The Athletic on a thrilling, wild victory last evening. Nacho Lieber at about 10 o'clock, some fantasy at 11 o'clock, and some brief chat yours truly conducted yesterday with a couple of Vikings, Aaron Jones and Byron Murphy Jr. on the border battle. Nordo produces, and I'm Paul Allen. It's 9:15 in the neighborhood. and the neighborhood is FM 100.3 KFAN. Good morning.
Vikes Bites.
What up, 9:20? It's 9 to noon. It is Vikes Bites, and it's always presented by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. You can shop online. Box of Meat shows up at your doorstep, or local Coburn's, Kowalski's locations, local co-ops, proud sponsors, Gophers Athletics. It's elite beef. I've smoked and grilled it. I love it, and you will too. So Thousand Hills, Clearwater, Minnesota's finest. I do have a couple of questions off of your conversation with the Dagger last segment. Wayne Larrivee, longtime Vox, Green Bay Packers. I'm curious, how different do you believe the game potentially looks on Sunday? Just the simple hinging point of whether or not Josh Jacobs chooses to go for the Packers. Now, I know they got Emmanuel. I know they got Emmanuel Wilson, and I think a young cat, Chris Brooks. You're actually lauding him in his pass protection late in that win over the Giants. Knowing LaFleur's offense, knowing this team, you talk about the QB as he ramps his way later into seasons with efficiency and lack of turnovers. Those are good things if you're a green and gold fan. I'm just trying to picture how different this game looks, all because Josh Jacobs is either giving it a go on that knee, or they give him the week off, and now it's the Emmanuel Wilson show. I think not that it means everything, PA, because our quarterback's going to have a lot to say with how this game goes. But I think in terms of that offense, it may mean just about everything for how the Packers operate Sunday.
Well, it has to be a lot because he's really good and he scores a lot. Now, Josh never has been a running back who is going to run away from you, run around you, catch it and make you miss and do things like that. But what he does do makes it so the Cashmans, the Wilsons, the safeties, players like that absolutely have to pay attention to him between the tackles. So therefore, how many steps does that take players off when the quarterback executes play action? Yeah. That's first and foremost. What happens to the play action game if Josh Jacobs doesn't play? Secondly, the a topic for me for Green Bay's offense entails the early stages of the game, maybe a quarter, depending on how much the Vikings offense can hold on to it. But it until proven otherwise, this is not shoe size contest border battle talking. It's fact. It takes Jordan Love a little bit to figure out Brian Flores' defense. I mean, when Darnold jumped him last year 28-0, Love was coming off an injury in Brazil, but he was good to go. Full week of practice, and it just took him a long time to figure that thing out. Now, when he did, and the Vikings corrected, they couldn't keep up with Love. Yeah. For about a quarter and a half.
I think he threw 4 TDs that game.
And as you'll hear later with my chat with Byron Murphy, Byron loves playing at Lambeau. Last year at Lambeau was a strange day for him because when they figured out where they felt they could go to make money, it generally was in the direction of number 7. Well, number 7 was not only the best corner on the team, but the best tackling corner on the team and was having the best season of all the corners on the team. Well, they went right at him, and Byron was having some significant problems. But then you get to, Love and some things he will do every single game where he just needs to be made to pay. He just threw this punt up for whatever the reason. I think the rush was pretty good. And it was a Kyler Murray punt pass back right of the end zone, right to Byron Murphy. I mean, there were barely any Packers in the vicinity. Murphy picked him off. Murphy got confidence. Fast forward. Tucker Kraft is by the sideline for what was a pretty big play. Murphy punched the ball away from him. So Byron caught fire after having a really, really rough go of it during the first 2.5 quarters. So if Love comes out of the gate, with or without Jacobs, and it's nail this here, that there, run here, do this, and it's working, that could be very problematic.
The interesting part of this, too, with or without Jacobs, The Packers have the number one third down. The matchup of the third down offenses, Packers convert third downs at almost a 50% clip.
Ooh.
And the Vikings 31st in the NFL in third downs, just over 31%. I think Jacobs plays into a bit of that as well. But you mentioned, continuing on, a couple of things popped in my head during your conversation with Larrivee.
Well, that's cool what you said about the Packers offense. I'm not far enough into the prep to know that. But the Vikings' third down defense has mostly been really good this year.
Yeah, they're ninth in the NFL right now.
It's ninth, yeah.
About 36%.
It was third at one point. I knew it had dropped of late, but still, that's a nice little matchup.
Well, the one part of getting it out there on Sunday and chucking it around and finding their way, and maybe it's at Murphy until they get bit and they adjust. Matthew Golden. I remember our conversations, whether it was with Cinny, and they're just all kind of lauding and celebrating. Finally, are you kidding me? The first-round receiver, we got Matthew Golden, and he's the most athletic cat in the draft at the pass-catching position, and just all the excitement and optimism around it. Well, fast forward in the 9 out of 10 games, he's played 9 out of their 10, just 32 targets.
Right.
Josh Jacobs, you mentioned a guy that's not definitely not topping the resume, his pass catching ability. Josh Jacobs has more targets in 2025 than Matthew Golden is.
Damn.
And so the reason I was looking at that is I'm thinking, how have they adjusted post Tucker Kraft? It's not the way of the rookie. It still is something I think they're trying to find an answer for. So it's kind of twofold. I wonder if they're mildly underwhelmed with the early production of the rookie Longhorn, and also still scrambling to say, what is Jordan Love's nookie blankie post Tucker Kraft?
Wow. That's I like how you laid that out. Now, the Dagger daggered it. Tucker Kraft is, outside of the quarterback, the most important player on the Green Bay Packers offense. Came out of that tight ends heavy draft a few years ago. And he and Sam Laporta are the best two of the bunch, but Tucker's really, really good.
Yeah.
All right, so he's out for the year. So now, where do things filter, not just over the course of snap counts or results game after game after game, but in the hottest moments and the biggest third downs of each game? I think they're very much still trying to figure that out. And it will be even more of a conundrum if Jacobs is not able to play. Well, with Matthew Golden, this is about, from what I know now with more work to do on it, he has 0 touchdowns, was the 23rd overall pick in the draft. They got a third-round rookie from TCU named Savion Williams.
Yes.
He's been the better rookie.
He's on his mind.
He's been the better rookie because if they put him back on kick return, look out. I mean, he's sitting on one. He's really, really crafty. He only has a touchdown, 33 long, but a 16 long run. They run him. They're running him more.
Yeah.
So they're doing more with 83 than they are 0.
Wow.
Now, without having any knowledge of like what leads into that, I haven't asked here, and I don't have the capabilities of asking there. But just in seeing situations like this, as long as I have, generally speaking, it's because the one who's the 1A, which would be Golden here, is just not completely up to speed with the checks and the motions and the audibles and the depth of route. You're fast, and if we put you on what's known as a 9 route straight down the field or a double move and you sell it the right way, all right, you're probably going to get open. But we're far in the equation now for a first-round pick to not have any touchdowns. Now, Williams, third-rounder TCU, he only has 1. The thing they're trying to do is they got a touchdown last game from Josh Wiley, a free agent they got from Tennessee. They also have a fourth-year guy from Georgia named John Fitzpatrick. Those are the two mostly filling in for Kraft, but they just can't get Luke Musgrave going. I mean, Luke Musgrave has 0 touchdowns in right around 2 years.
Yeah.
So they're trying to figure that thing out, get the first-round rookie to start impacting the game as much as the third-round rookie.
Vikes Bites! Thank you, Thousand Hills. To the injury report we go. By the way, like half the Packers team is on the injury report.
Yeah, they
this
do
week.
that every week.
You got Hobbs, who even when he's healthy, he really hasn't been a factor for them.
No, he's inactive these days.
And Jacobs, we mentioned Quay Walker, Carl Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
But on our side of things, a couple of things to look forward to. The Thursday report will tell us a ton about whether Jonathan Grenard is making progress towards playing on Sunday with the shoulder issue. But how about Ryan Kelly, my friend, a full participant in yesterday's practice? So anticipating restructured helmet, guardian cap, that Ryan Kelly, and save for anything that happens in practice the next 2 days, for the first time, I believe, in 2025 PA, unless you correct me, this will be the first time that we're actually getting our preferred starting five to begin a game.
It is.
Because I believe it was School the first two, then you got Darisaw, but we got concussion clump with Ryan Kelly, and then O'Neal, I believe, has missed time. I mean, just the ins and outs. Welcome back, Ryan Kelly.
Yeah.
He's obviously excited to retake the field, but maybe the first time we've seen our preferred starting five all year. We'll get to see it at Lambeau.
Yeah, I gotta believe it's an every down sweat with Ryan Kelly.
Yeah.
I mean, good to have him back. Big, powerful guy. O'Connell keeps saying he's kicking down the barn door to get out on the track. I believe that to be true. He's compensated to play. He's one of the ones who wants to play and earn his money. And he's very, very physical. You got both your running backs and C.J. Ham. So when you have Jackson, Kelly, I don't think Fry's practiced yesterday, but I don't think it's anything significant. And then you got Darisaw and O'Neal. Well, that right there, that Minnesota moving company is supposed to move man and afford you the opportunity to run not only between the tackles, but set up the play action for the kid. Ryan's very, very physical. Now, he got the most recent concussion in Dublin when his head hit the knee of a Steeler. So, like I say, I got to believe it's seriously, with all due respect, it has to be a down by down sweat. Because I think he's had 10 of them. You've already lost him one time this year, and those things are tricky. It's just concussions are just so strange because they can have them go in protocol, but that night in Dublin outside the team hotel, we're talking 4 or 5 hours after the game. I see Ryan Kelly with friends and family members, just being normal, talking and doing stuff like that, but it's like, wow, man, he just had a really bad concussion. I just learned he previously had 9.
Yeah.
He's sitting there talking normally. They're just strange. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, of course it's strange. I mean, I think about Isaiah Rodgers in the Bears game, right? I mean, he takes that hit, and the way it looks specifically in slow motion makes everything look so much worse.
Right.
But he goes to the blue tent, comes back onto the field. Meanwhile, you mentioned it, I think, whether we were at TCO or even on Monday, you hear about Jackson Dart. Well, you're excited about the future of Jackson Dart. You also find out, wait a minute, he's had 3 or 4 concussions this season? What's that?
4.
That can't be good.
Yeah.
And so just kind of how individualized it is via the moment, how individualized it is via the specific player, the intricacies of a hit. We've watched some horrific moments with a Tua Tagovailoa. We've also seen some guys find their way through entire careers putting their head down and making contact and never finding themselves in that spot. So unpredictable, so weird.
Yeah,
I just want Kelly to be healthy, and you got to trust that he's, on his own behalf. He gets to make these choices, that he's back out there, and that play-by-play sweat will continue.
I'm glad you said that at the end about he gets to make the choice when he returns from the concussion, despite being cleared X amount of days, weeks. I have no idea. Van Ginkel, neck. Despite being cleared X amount of days, weeks, got no idea. Maybe he was cleared 1 minute before he actually came back and started. It's when you're talking about young men in a violent game and their brains and or their necks, and they're not chicken bleeps in any way for being hesitant about potentially what's coming, because you don't put fear over faith and execute your toil in chicken-like fashion and get that far if you truly are scared. There's a difference between scared and just being smart with how your body, mind, neck, or whatever feels. So Like if Ryan Kelly and or Andrew Van Ginkel couldn't get themselves over the hump to get out there and play this violent game with brain and or neck injuries, I would completely understand.
Vikes Bites. Hey, we made it 15 minutes into Vikes Bites without talking about the QB. But there are a couple of things I wanted to play for you, and we're going to start with him discussing with the media exactly what he's working on these days.
My posture, the way that I'm processing the defense in terms of I know what I'm getting, but let the rhythm of the play out. Don't be getting to that answer too quick because, it's a timing and rhythm of the concepts and the defenses. And just decision making, just understanding, the situation of the game, not just the concept that I'm trying to execute. Understand, like for instance, that first pick last game. It's 4 minutes going into half. We're on our own side of the territory and just understand, what that risk factor should be and go from there. So I'd say those things.
And here's more from JJ, specifically, I believe, on just new mechanics now that he's in the big league.
Coming in here, I was taught how to play quarterback in a very different way, and that's expected going into the league, going into any new team, any new system. But at the end of the day, it was really just the injuries that I felt like, kind of took away all those reps and the constant repetition to make those a habit and make them concrete like KO talks about. I feel like, it's just the repetitions. How many times could I go home and every time I take the dogs out, I'm getting, 10 drops each time. Little things like that where you just keep building the reps.
Yeah, just taking the dogs for a walk, catch a quick 10, and then we're back to it, rewiring those neural pathways.
That's a lot.
It's definitely a lot. Dan Orlovsky usually offers a lot. NFL Live on ESPN. Here he is. This is kind of the back end of a longer conversation he had on TV yesterday, specifically breaking down some of those mechanical or fundamental issues he's seen in McCarthy.
These are mechanical things that are starting from the ground. That's where the flaw is first, is they got to get his feet consistently closer together. The second thing is they got to get him to, at his hips, rotate more, because right now his legs don't rotate, his hips don't rotate, and his upper body does. So that's why you're getting these occasional kind of egregious misses. You could play it and see how his left arm flings open. See, his left shoulder is consistently behind the right shoulder rather than pointing towards his target and staying tight. And so I know it's discouraging. I understand it. Like, it's concerning. I'm a little bit more encouraged because I think those are correctable things.
Yeah. Oh, thank goodness. Part of the reason I played that audio PA was not as I wasn't hoping that you would have 90 seconds or 2 minutes of just like a breakdown or a long extended thought on it.
I ain't got that.
My point of playing all that, this is insane.
It's insane.
This is insane. Yeah. It's a 6 game on Sunday. I'm looking forward to it. I have this though. One thing that is kind of weird. 2 road games, Chicago and Detroit. 60% completion, 6 total touchdowns, turned it over twice. At home in those 3 games, less than 50% completion, 2 touchdowns, 7 total turnovers. Yeah. He's less accurate. He's throwing it to the other team. He's not as efficient or productive overall at home. So this weekend, how about this? Let's generate 3 TDs like you've gone 2 for 2 on the road in the division before. Let's not give it to the other freaking team. And let's come out with a victory. I mean, listen to that audio. I don't want to listen to it again. It's neural pathways.
When J.J. McCarthy, and I was at that press conference yesterday, and it had my head spinning. I mean, and I've heard him talk like that before, and O'Connell talk like that before with the footwork and the balance and the eye work and the shoulders, and now we got neurological pathways entering the mix. It's, with all due respect to everybody with the 2025 Minnesota Vikings working arduously to raise this kid quarterback, I leave these conversations wondering how he ever completed a pass at Michigan. I mean, how did he ever go on a drop back and actually make things happen? And then the difference between what is needed there when you got all the best players compared to having a bunch of good players here, but against a bunch of really, really good players for other teams every single week. I mean, it's just I guess it's a complete overhaul. I just don't understand enough about it. But before we walk up to Aaron Jones and Byron Murphy a little later, one thing I was going to share with you then, I'll share with you now because of that little breakdown you did. McCarthy, the first 2 possessions of his 5 starts, his passer rating is 125.9, and his yards per attempt is 8 and high change. 125.9, a yards per attempt of 8 and high change is immortality-like.
Yeah.
It's top 5 in the NFL for 125.9 and 8 and change. First 2 possessions, all right?
So that includes even those early misses that we were kind of frustrated about last week. Okay.
The first 2 possessions of all 5 of his starts, passer rating 125.9, yards per attempt 8 and change, around 8.5.
Not bad.
Now we know from Soldier Field and the final 2 drives last Sunday, and for long patches in that Lions game, J.J. McCarthy absolutely can handle pressure. We know that. We've seen it. I mean, it's a calling card of his. So how do we fix the in-between?
I don't know.
It's the in-between when he's like 35% on third down and throws more picks than touchdowns.
Well, you even asked you asked KO, I think, on Tuesday, and it was kind of just because we've talked about this off air and on air at times, I'm sure, but it's like you can't teach the late stage pressure handling just organically.
Right.
How do you teach him to complete the bleeping 2nd and 5 in the second quarter, or not throw that pick like he threw to Byard in the first in the Bears game? Stuff like that. Like, it's just there's a short circuiting. There's something up.
That's why neurological pathways are needing to be developed because of short circuiting.
I don't know. Part of me, and this is just not how it works, but it's just KO is just like, all right, whatever I've told you, just go play. Just go play the game. Now, we've tried this. We want to keep you in the pocket. We've tried some designed runs. We've tried this. We've tried that. Just go play. Go play football like you're out in the sandbox with your buddies. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's the next evolution of this thing. Neurological pathways. Yeah, and that's Vikes Bites.
If McCarthy does not make the simple, O'Connell is telling the truth, and he's absolutely right, is they've overcome a lot of things with McCarthy, as you do with young 22-year-old quarterbacks. It's now making the routine.
And that's up to the kid.
It's making the simple.
Yeah.
And not making it so hard on himself.
Correct.
And if he doesn't, he won't be starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings maybe in 2026.
That's true.
Those are Vikes Bites provided by
Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. It's good for your neurological pathways, I think, or at least it's regenerative agriculture. Check out the website. They know more about it.
And Russo Radio is good for the blood flow. Because if he says something that frustrates you, the blood gets going. And he stimulates you with his elite hockey knowledge. Wild beat the Canes in a shootout last night. That topic and more around the corner on KFAN.
Matt Boldy, top of round 3, 8 for 17 in his career, including 6 game-deciding shootout tallies. And a breakaway goal in the opening period of Shorty. Boldy picks up the puck at center, wide right, into the Hurricane zone. Now back towards the middle of the slot. Boldy waits, dance to his backhand, he scores! The speedster Taylor Hall races through center. Volstead stops him, it's over. Hall in, took a shot. Stick save, Volstead! And the Wild win! Oh, Jesper Volstead! The best performance maybe of his young NHL career!
Russo Radio.
Michael Russo, The Athletic, theathletic.com, at Russo Hockey, joins 9 to noon every so often, and here he is. These Wild, Joe O'Donnell on the calls there, by the way, on KFAN. They're good right now. These Wild, 7-1-1 the last 9, 4-0-1 this homestand. Beat the Canes in a shootout. Wallstead was terrific, and the NHL's Twitter account called him the Wall of St. Paul. What do you think about all this, Michael Russo? And good morning.
Yeah, he has been definitely the biggest, I don't want to say surprise of the season, but definitely the biggest bright spot. He's gotten the Wild points in all 7 of his starts. I think that, especially the way that Gustafson's been playing the last couple starts as well, playing really, really well. The one question I asked John Hines after the game last night is, could you see yourself even doing, exactly what Rod Brind'Amour has done the last couple years in Carolina, and that's go with a pretty much a strict rotation, no matter what happens the game before, the next goalie is starting. And right now, Carolina is doing it with 3 goalies. Last night, Kochetkov was scratched. He'll back up tomorrow night in Winnipeg, probably start in Buffalo, and then Freddie will have the night off in Winnipeg. And in such a condensed season because of the Olympics, that is very, very necessary. The Wild have played 21 games already in a month and change of the season. And it's going to be like that the rest of the season. They barely have, any time off up until the Olympics. So I think that it's been a really pleasant surprise to see Wally playing as well as he has. Remember, he's had a last couple of years. He's had some trouble in Iowa last year. Had some injury issues. Needed a sort of a mental reset after being very disappointed that he was spending the year in Iowa because of the Wild's cap crunch when they hoped to at least have 3 goalies in Minnesota more often than not, and that just couldn't happen because they were so inundated with injuries. And he really, really struggled, both mentally and on the ice. And for him to come up here right now and be as good as he has been, it probably shows also how well the Wild are defending right now, because they've been really, really good. Last night wasn't the greatest game by any stretch, the last 40 minutes, but defending-wise, that has been the biggest turnaround for the season. And as you mentioned, a 4-0-1 homestand after going 2-2-2 on that other long homestand in October, they are definitely heading in the right direction.
And off that, I mean, they got outshot 45-18. And after the game, I read this at The Athletic. After the game, Boldy said, quote, "A win is a win. When April comes, you beat Carolina, but you played bad. 2 points, and that's what matters. No one in this room cares. We'll use it to get better," end quote. Is that a fair read on the victory?
Yeah, absolutely. 2 points is 2 points. The Wild have had plenty of games earlier last month where they probably deserved better and didn't get the 1 or 2 points. So, I don't want to do the old it all evens out, but he's exactly right. Obviously Carolina played really, really well the last 2 periods. Their third lines with Stankoven centering Jackson Blake. I mean, you could call it the third line. It's really more the second line. And Nikolai Ehlers on that line, they were just sensational last night. Like, Jackson Blake is just going to be a heck of a player for that team for a long, long time. And he was dominant last night and could have had 3 or 4 or 5 goals. Wound up with 2, gets the tying goal, sends it to overtime. Probably justice prevailed for them at least getting a point. But to Matt's point, I mean, the Wild were really, they're down significant players right now. They have, the second most injuries in the league. Hopefully this isn't a sign of what's happened the last couple of years and that it's starting now. But when you're down Marco Rossi and you're down Ryan Hartman and you have a rookie center playing number 1 center, that's what you get at the end of games sometimes. I mean, Ben Jones, who doesn't have a point in his NHL career, is on the ice for that tying goal. I mean, that is only happening because the Wild, are so inundated with injuries up the middle right now. Trenyon's not exactly a natural center, so he didn't feel comfortable there. And Uros, played 20 games in the league, less than 20 games, so he went with the Ben Jones, and it just obviously didn't work out. So I think that there's reasons why the Wild were on their heels to such a degree in the last 40 minutes. You don't like to see it, especially on home ice. But at the end of the day, Matt's right. They got 2 points, and they move on to Pittsburgh. And
Boldy scored the first shorty of his career last night, and he's hot. 6 goals in the last 7 games. Do you think Boldy and Kaprizov will go nose to nose right to the end for team supremacy with goals?
Probably. I mean, Kaprizov's probably a little less streaky than Boldy, so that's the one thing is that, most likely I would think that if Kaprizov's healthy, he's going to wind up, being the Wild's goal leader. Matt Boldy got off to a scorching hot start this season, and then he went 1 goal in a 10-game stretch. Now he has 6 in the last 7. That's just been Matt's, career. A lot of goal scorers are streaky, but he is just playing such a great brand of all-around winning hockey right now. It's not just his offensive abilities. He's been so good in his own end. He competes. I just love what I've seen from him this homestand. And, in terms of him being on the ice there on the penalty kill, this is what John Hines had been talking about for the last couple of years and why he wanted to introduce him to playing the penalty kill. He tried it at the World Championships 2 years ago when John was coaching there. Matt was really good on the PK, and so he was going to play there at the start of last season, but unfortunately the first day at camp he broke his foot, broke a bone in his foot, and really missed all of camp. So he didn't really get introduced until on the penalty kill until late in the season, and now he's been really, really good in that situation. And, you could see the reason why so many good offensive players in the National Hockey League play the PK is for exactly what he did last night. Good offensive players react on where that puck is going, And, against another sensational offensive player, Sebastian Aho, Matt read that perfectly, knocked down a pass that Aho intended to, enter the zone with. And next thing you know, Boldy's off on the races and scores a goal that probably Freddie should have stopped. But, I think that this is exactly why John Hines wanted him on the PK, not just to obviously kill penalties, but to add an offensive element to the penalty kill that the Wild just haven't had because they don't really play like a lot of teams, a lot of their top offensive players on the PK.
Russo Radio.
Great opportunity for Urov. How did Urov handle centering the top line?
And, really good for a first time. And, I think he's realizing right away that when you play with great offensive players, you have the chance to accumulate points. He got his first multi-point game of the season. I didn't think the line was very good as a whole, but I don't necessarily think that's Urov's fault at all. I think that they probably have to simplify right now that line. Sometimes they get a little too cute and it creates problems, and they wound up in their own end way too much last night. And didn't get a ton of even strength ice time, especially in the second period because of it. But Urov is just such a quality player. And what I love about the kid is that usually, a 21-year-old comes over for Europe, and if they're not from Sweden, you got to teach him how to play defense. He is so responsible in his own end, and he's taking care about that more and more and more. And that's why John Hines trusts him, so much. Last night there was some trouble. I would say defensively, where he got on the wrong side of pucks on his own end. There was one real good chance by Jackson Blake where he got on the other side of Urov, and it was a great sprint chance. And that line, as I've said, just dominated the Wild, pretty much anybody that they threw out there last night. But I think Urov is going to get better and better. They really have no choice now because Hartman's got to miss at least the next couple games because he's on injured reserve. Rossi is still trying to work his way back from the broken foot, and so they really don't have anybody else. So the one thing I'd love to see is Hunter Haight in the lineup on this trip. I don't know if we will get to see him because John just trusts Ben Jones. But it just feels like if you could add another really quality offensive center to this lineup, I think that it would help things out greatly going into 3 tough road games in a row in Pittsburgh, Winnipeg, and Chicago, who's been probably the biggest surprise in the NHL this year.
All right. So lastly, off that, at Pittsburgh tomorrow night, then at the Jets Sunday afternoon, we'll start there. The Winnipeg Jets, they beat the Wild in overtime 3 weeks ago. They haven't lost to the Wild in almost 3 years. Is this version of the Wild poised to take 2 from the Jets on Sunday?
Well, they definitely can. There's no doubt about it. Not having Hartman and Rossi and Tarasenko and these guys, hurts. We'll see what happens with Nico Sturm if he can play at some point this weekend. The hope is that he'll practice in Winnipeg on Saturday and maybe make his debut on Sunday, which would be way earlier than he had thought. But we'll see if that's too premature. Bogosian's on the trip as well. I definitely think they have the ability to beat that team. It's just obviously the matchups haven't gone very well for the Wild, especially up there in Winnipeg. So we'll see. The one thing I'd love to see if they're going to go with this rotation, that would mean that Gustafson's going to start in Pittsburgh, and that would mean Wally would start in Winnipeg, and it would be something different we haven't seen before. Usually when Wally goes up there in the preseason or plays the Jets in the preseason, it goes really, really well. Obviously, that's a preseason lineup, so you can't make too much of that. But I definitely think the Wild have the ability to beat that team. It just, for some reason, that matchup just hasn't gone really well. I think it starts between the pipes. Connor Hellebuck is just an unbelievably good goaltender. He's won the Vezina the last couple of years. He's off to another really quality start this year. It's the reason why he's probably going to be the number one at the Olympics, although Jake Ottinger might have something to say about that. So we'll see how that goes. But, the first thing they got to do is go into Pittsburgh and win. That game against Pittsburgh at home last month was one of the worst Wild games that we've seen this season, especially in the third period. And what I loved about that game is that was the next morning where Jared Spurgeon, and I'm going to be writing about it today, had the team meeting, a real substantive team meeting, and they're 7-1-1 since. So that was a real turning point of the season, that Pittsburgh loss, and we'll see if they can amend that tomorrow night.
Thanks, Bud. Have a great weekend. Call you next week.
Yep. See you, Paul.
Ben Lieber is around the corner, and he will follow
Russo Radio.
Border battle this weekend. Be right back.